Okay, page 2 of our review for the quiz coming up for Unit 3. So here we're asked to graph a series of translated parent functions, okay? So in this case, it may help, and what you may see on the quiz, I may prompt you for certain questions, okay? So I know this is based on x squared, and it's been moved to the right by 2, and it's been moved down by 1, and it's not been reflected over the axis. So I will probably prompt you and ask for those kind of questions. So x squared, if I move it to the right 2 and down 1, that's this point right here. So I need to graph x squared at that point, and it looks like this, okay? And this particular one, the parent function is square root of x, and remember that looks like this. So square root of x, and it looks like I've been moved to the right by 3 and upwards by 2. So if I go to the right 3 and up 2, that is right here. So this function looks like this. Now, what will probably be asked on the question, you may ask questions about domain and range. So in this case, what is the domain of this function? This domain is negative infinity to infinity. And this function has a range. What is the range of this function? Range is the y values. Y values go from -1 to infinity. And let's look at the next one. In this one over here, our domain is going to be 3 to infinity. And our range, those are the y values. So if I start at the bottom and travel upward, y values start at 2. So 2 to infinity. Okay. So graphing these translated parent functions. Now let's look at another couple here. This one is based on x cubed. So x cubed, remember that graph looks like this. And it looks like this one has been shifted 1 to the right and up by 3. So if I go 1 to the right and up by 3, that is right there. And so this function does this. That function has a domain and range of negative infinity to infinity. If I look at this, this is based on x to the 2/3, which looks like this. And so if I look at it, this graph has been shifted to the right by 1 and upward by 2. So to the right 1 and up 2 is right there. And so this function looks like this. Okay. So those are graphing translated functions. And again, you may be asked on the test to figure out the domain. In this case, that domain is negative infinity to infinity. And the range of this function is going to be 2 to infinity. Let's continue on. In this particular one, I'm giving the graph and I'm asking to receive back the equation for this function. So when we look at this, I know that this is based on x to the 1/3, and x to the 1/3 looks like this, okay? So I can look at this immediately and tell this is a reflected x to the 1/3, okay? So I know it's going to have a minus sign in front of it. So it's going to be minus and then x. And then if I look at it, x to the 1/3 normally is centered right here. So, and now this particular graph is centered at that point. So it looks like it's been moved 1, 2, 3, 3 spaces to the right. So 3 spaces to the right, that means x minus 3. Raise that to the 1/3. And so if I moved it 3 spaces to the right, it looks like I moved it 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces upward. So plus 4, okay? So this is a parent function that was translated 3 spaces to the right, and 4 spaces up, and it was reflected. Okay, so I could tell all of that by knowing what the original parent function looked like, which I drew over to the right. The domain of this function is negative infinity to infinity. The range of this function is negative infinity to infinity. And this function is always decreasing. So the way I tell that, if I mark a spot here, and then I mark another spot, as I travel from left to right, from here to here, my y values are going down. So it is decreasing from negative infinity. Sorry, pardon me, let me back up. They asked me where it was increasing. This function is always decreasing. So it is never increasing. This function is always decreasing. Okay? That should be the end of page 2, and we'll come back for the final page.